Welcome to 108 Gate. We're doing a general reading for the time you come to this reading. Hope you are well. Definitely in and out, ebb and flow of energies. So where it's clearing out, there's more stuff ready to come in and it's being ushered in. It's a matter of just making sure we're staying calm, making sure we're staying attentive to the details of things and responding appropriately. So, compassion. Silence. Okay, interesting. So, silence feels really important at the moment because we're in observing mode, observing the flow, observing the spaces, the gaps. And the best way to do that is the silence. So even now, trying to see what's going on, the silence felt really strong. It's going to hold a lot of information. It's going to hold attachment to certain things that you can let go of. It's going to inform you of places that you've been holding your breath, places where you've been waiting for something, places where you're in stagnation or you're stuck in a particular way of thinking. So this seems to be related to the super ego. Now, I know those of you who have been with me for a while know that I don't necessarily agree the way the ego gets battered in modern spirituality and just general terms of when we're supposed to be working with ourselves in a compassionate, loving way, that the ego gets so pummeled in a negative way. It just doesn't make any sense, because if you actually look at the structure of how it's organized, you've got the id, the ego, and the super ego, and then there's other parts in between there as well. Again, same like the chakra system, we only look at the 7 chakras mainly, but that's not to say there's like hundreds and hundreds of other chakras in the body, but we don't look at those, and they all have an integral part of how this whole thing functions. So I feel like this silence is definitely focusing on the super ego. The super ego is where we have been influenced. It's a version of a kind of psychodynamic, psychotherapy, psychoanalysis version of conditioning. Conditioning is more behaviorist, which is not the same as psychodynamics in some sense. It's the same, it's a similar kind of concept. So where we are influenced by authority, where we are influenced by rules and regulations of society, of our parents, of our teachers and structures like that, that influences the super ego. That is the structure of the super ego. And then we, in relation to that, figure out if we fit in or not. Therefore, it's not the ego's problem. It's not the ego's fault if it doesn't fit in, because the id is your organic self. It's your true self. It's your core self. So the id is there. The super ego is there. And the ego there is trying to figure out, how does my id and super ego fit? Therefore, it's the ego that's needing this compassion, is needing this silence, is needing this understanding of where is our super ego being misled. Because if you have negative influences in your life as a child and all those things, it's just as equally powerful as if you have positive influences. Therefore, this is feeling very, very strongly drawn to the super ego. I would recommend you look at it yourself, because I'm not claiming to be an expert. I'm not claiming to know everything about it. I'm just saying I don't agree often how the ego is portrayed as this kind of villain. It's confused. The way I look at it is it's the mediator between the id and the super ego. And like I said, there's other layers between that as well, which we often don't hear about either. Therefore, always look to at least 3 sources minimum, reputable, reliable sources. Wikipedia is not one of them. So 2 of coins, juggling certain things and understanding that there's certain things that you've got to balance out. This is literally the ego does she look as if she deserves to be like reprimanded, or as if she's doing anything wrong? It simply is balancing the id, balancing the super ego, is the ego in between, mediating between the two. How does my inner self actually fit into that which is external to me, that which is influencing me? How does it fit? How does it work? In this process, like I said, with compassion, sit in that silence and just actually let that question float around. If you choose to, I think this would be a really good opportunity to do some journaling. I don't always put these kind of things in, but it does feel like I'm seeing a book, I'm seeing the pen, I'm seeing the process of purging, process of letting things out. Again, making some more space for the things that need to come in, for realignment of your thoughts, realignment of how you fit into things and how things fit with you. So there's certain things that are going to come up you're definitely wanting to be walking away from. You're definitely looking up to emotional well-being, emotional fulfillment. And in that process, there's the things you're going to be walking away from are not going to be anything that's detrimental if you walk away from it. Because your level of intuition, your level of intuitive connection with certain things now, those of you who are doing your work and done your work, you're going to be going in from a different kind of guidance. That's why it's important to remember the silence. Let the silence speak. Let the silence reveal the confusion. Let the silence reveal the next question. Let the silence reveal what is actually going on. Where do I feel that? And then I'm going to remind you that there's a tuning fork playlist in the box below. You can utilise those. There are more coming as soon as possible. So subscribe and hit that bell. So these 3 cups here, you're going to know, you're going to have more insight to that. Why did those 3 cups spill over? How did they spill over? Why am I still attached to it? Why have I told myself I'm not bothered by it if I am? How have I just ignored it, put nose up? Ignored it? Have I really ignored it, or have I just buried it really, really deep down so that I can't see and feel it, but at the same time I can feel it in my essence, I can feel it in my auric field. It's coming out in situations that it's relevant and it's prevalent, that it's still there. So that's a lot coming up and out. You're going to be having interesting discussions, interesting collaborations with people. And this feels like more of a passive thing. So, for example, it feels more along the lines of you're in a cafe or in a library or in a shop, something like that. You're in the process of day-to-day life, and then you have interesting meetings with strangers, or interesting meetings with people you haven't seen in a long time, or that are not part of your normal everyday life. It's just those interactions, different conversations, different comments. You may overhear certain comments or conversations. It's very, very insightful. So if you are intrigued and you're feeling like something's kind of perking up in your interest or in your intuition or instinct or emotions, taking a bit of time to just think about, what is that about? Simply asking, what is that about? You're going to understand the higher value of your taking your time, the silence and the feeling of emotions, the connection with the emotions, the questioning of what is that about, rather than going into the energy of assuming, rather than going into the energies of this isn't my fault, this isn't my fault, that's their fault, that's their fault. Is taking responsibility of your part, seeing where you can therefore make things different for yourself, change things for yourself. Bring the power back to self. Bring it back to self. It can't be more clearer. And every time I say that, it could be clearer. Letting yourself see the indicators, letting yourself see the information that's coming in. Go through that process of perspective changing. Really, really strong reading. High Priestess. Knowing you're supported, feeling you're supported, enjoying that support, that feeling of not seeking support or approval from elsewhere. seeking it from the divine, receiving it from the divine. Therefore, a knowing comes in that you have an abundance of this support, you have an abundance of this awareness, you have an abundance of this prosperity of thought, of intellect, of intuition, of instinct, of resources ready to just flood in, ready to just come in such a loving way. But you have to be open to receiving it. Therefore, you have to take responsibility of where your part is in all of this, so that you know you are able and capable of handling all of that good stuff that's about to come in. So I hope that helped. Personal readings 108gate@gmail.com, information in the box below. Tuning forks, raw and rustic, in the box below. Playlist, you can utilise those. More of that to come, and there's guided meditations coming as soon as possible. So for now, enjoy this. Thank you for your support always. Peace and love.